when you think of Oklahoma, maybe black people don't come to mind. And when you think of rodeos and cowboys, maybe black people don't come to mind. But black people in Oklahoma are central to the story of the American cowboy. Today, we break it down with award-winning filmmaker and director of the documentary Writing Legacy, Kian Taylor. Thank you so much for joining In Depth with Dion.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you having me.
Hey, I appreciate you being here. I think your story, like I said before, is one that is valuable to understanding who we are, but also in inspiring the next generation of filmmakers and Black rodeo supporters, participants, all of it. So
Thank you.
to get started, where are you from, and how did you get into filmmaking?
I'm from Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Born and raised out in Forest Park.
Okay.
A little bit about me, how I got into filmmaking. First time I ever picking up a camera was actually when I was in the Navy. Part of my job, when I would do certain deployments, would be taking photos and videos, surface to air contacts. And so that was my first time touching a camera or picking up a camera. And then fast forward to 2016. I had a second opportunity whenever I was doing a fashion brand. And so I needed to do some video for my content. And so I went out to Best Buy, picked up a little Canon camera, started messing around with it. It was posting online. People liked it a lot. And I just kind of grew it from there.
Wow. Okay. Unconventional approach to filmmaking.
Oh, very unorthodox.
But it always starts with a cannon. Um, so that's wild. So born and raised in Oklahoma, Oklahoma City, Forest Park, so real East Side, respect. Navy. Tell me about that. How'd you get into that?
So in 2009, I had made a decision to join the United States Navy. Wasn't really much going on out here in Oklahoma during that time period for me. I wanted to go to college for a little bit. Tried that. Had an opportunity to actually play baseball in college. I had a daughter when I was 17, 18 years old. And so I had to make some decisions that could actually like continue to progress my life in a manner the way I saw fit, which was where I can make money as well, be able to take care of my family. And so joining the Navy to me at that time period was the best option.
And you weren't looking for a camera. It kind of found you. So that moment where you had where you first had to capture, you said a surface to air contact.
Yeah.
What exactly? Are we talking missiles? Are we talking projectile? I mean, I'm thinking, what are you talking about?
So actually, my primary job was a naval air crewman, and so my first job was actually anti-submarine warfare.
Oh wow.
I know it sounds way important, which it is.
I mean,
let me not downplay it. It is. And so my first job was like anti-submarine warfare, but certain areas that I would be working in, we weren't out hunting submarines at the time period. So our secondary job would be like, for example, if we were taking photos of surface ships, or if we're taking photos of certain contacts that are in the air that are jets, or we would just go out and look for certain targets depending on what area that we're working in. So but it could be boats, it can be ships, it can be aircrafts, it could be surface to air missiles and things like that. So yeah.
So
I was trying to say all that without being too, because there are people still doing that job right now.
I felt that was some of it. Like you didn't want to get nobody in trouble or nothing.
Yeah, so
and I ain't trying to get you in trouble.
Yeah. Well, you won't get me in trouble, but I just want to protect those that are still doing it. So
fair, respect. Yeah. How did you make that transition though? So tell me, how did you go from this is kind of interesting to me, to discovering this whole culture that a lot of the world is just now beginning to embrace when it comes to Black rodeos? How'd you get into that?
I've always kind of had the mindset of like I was, a storyteller. Even when you look at some of my first videos that I would create just to post on social media, they still had this feeling and sense of storytelling. And so being able to tell stories with camera angles, with compositions, with the way that I would, use multiple cameras and things like that to be able to like tell just regular stories to just post online. I think it made it easy for me to transition into like being a documentary filmmaker.
Mhm.
Because I mean, I have just like for those that didn't know much about the rodeo world, I didn't know much about the rodeo world either. And I mean, I grew up right next door to Spencer, Oklahoma, and I would
Yeah.
see friends that would ride horses that I would play sports against. When I was in high school, and I never really understood it because my dad, he's from Compton, California, and so I didn't really grow up. I mean, I grew up in Oklahoma, but I didn't grow up the same way a lot of my friends that are like from here grew up. And so I was always fascinated and wanted to learn more about the culture. And so once I started attending rodeos and started actually filming at these rodeos, I got to learn more about the people that are a part of this community and just learn like it's deeper than just seeing black people on horses with belt buckles and boots and hats and stuff. It's way much deeper than that.
And it was at one of these rodeos where I think I first saw you working.
Mm.
It was after Riding Legacy because that came out in 2023.
Yeah, it did. It did.
Okay. It may have been one of the Okmulgee rodeos, one of the biggest ones of the year.
Yeah.
Definitely, probably Bowley. Um, but I guess, how did you go about like getting really? You're in like the inner circle, it seems,
Yeah.
of black rodeo culture in Oklahoma,
Hmm.
to a point where you are part of it at this
Mm.
point. You're part of telling the story and keeping that story going. So how did you get so close into the community?
Man, it's kind of funny you said that, because I never thought about it like that until here recently. And so the rodeo summit I was with Black Rodeo USA,
Hmm.
and so that's the company that is traveling not just here in Oklahoma, but also will travel to multiple other states throughout the U.S. and will put on these rodeos. And majority of the cowboys and cowgirls that are on this circuit, they're from Oklahoma. And so me being a part of this, from me doing the documentary in 2023 and still kind of showing my face, throughout the years, I mean, I've just. built those relationships,
Hmm.
Like I said,
Consistency.
it's it's much deeper than just, the excitement of seeing black people on horses and hats and belt buckles and boots like everybody is seeing like from other states. Like folks are more interested in seeing that or are looking at it from that perspective. Me on the other hand, like I see, I mean, it's a community, it's actual individual. This is people's lifestyles. Like this isn't a costume for them.
Right.
This is what they really do, and they're really about that life. And so, my curiosity for it, and two, just having respect for the culture. Once you realize and learn more about who the real cowboys, the ones that really rodeo and do this for a living,
Hmm.
I mean, you can start drawing a parallel to, to all the way up to Michael Jordan and some of these cowboys that ride on the black rodeo circuit. Because a lot of those individuals, or there's a couple of them that I've actually filmed with and have had the honor to work with. They have competed at the highest level of rodeo, where they're making millions and millions of dollars doing this, and unfortunately, the world doesn't know about it. And so, for me, knowing these stories and having that respect and being able to be like, like you said, embedded in the culture like that, I've a part of me feels a little bit of responsibility to help the next generation by telling the story correctly,
Hmm.
telling the stories to where it does continue to empower that community and others that look just like us, and then form another community for those that don't know anything about this culture.
Just talking with some of the people over the years, who would, you know, drive from Kansas, Missouri, all over just to come to the Oklahoma stops in the circuit. Talking to you know, cowboys, cowgirls, announcers. There's a real respect for the history,
Mm.
and the reason, you know, that these kind of black rodeos had to even form.
Yeah.
Um, you know, uh, at least in Oklahoma, in Tulsa specifically. Um, uh, I got to go to the Tulsa Invitational earlier this year. I
Nice.
think I did see you there,
Mm.
and I spoke with a gentleman who he used to be very active in the circuit until he got into an accident and became paralyzed. but he went on to support youth by having trainings and programs for the youth. And he told me that back in 50s 60s, black cowboys would have to compete at the very end
Mm-hmm.
of the traditional white rodeos,
Yeah.
if at all. And so they decided to form their own.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been to the traditional white rodeo,
Yeah.
and it's boring. I mean, at least the one I went to. I don't want to knock anybody, but I'll say this: there's something extra
Yeah.
at the black rodeos that you just, it's like extra seasoning or something.
I mean, both of them. I mean, both of them have their pros and cons. You know, you'll see some black cowboys that ride that have been to a lot of the black rodeo circuits that go compete at other white rodeos, and they'll prefer to rodeo at white rodeos because of the organization and the structure or whatever they may see that's different. I don't know. And this is more so coming from the competitors, right? But then you'll see, white cowboys that come to black rodeos. They'll say, "I love this way more than I love, my normal rodeos that I go to." However, yeah, there's something different. There's something special about it, at the black rodeos. To me, it's like a big giant family reunion or just a huge cookout.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever you come to these rodeos, there's a lot going on. There's there's definitely some essence about it. I would love to see it grow to a large arena, somewhere in like a NFL arena or something like that, because I think that it does have that type of magnitude and that type of power to do those types of numbers, to where it can house people from all over the place that can come to Oklahoma and really enjoy themselves and feel free to dress up in their finest cowboy attire. I'm gonna touch on something you said, the history of it.
Yeah.
And so you're absolutely right. Black rodeo was created because a lot of the black cowboys had to ride after the rodeo. There's a guy by the name of Murtis Dightman who's down in Houston, Texas. I had the honor to work and film with him, and he has all these different mythical stories about him and how they would make him ride after the rodeos and things like that. And as time progressed, and black cowboys were able to throw their own rodeos, it wasn't just like, yes, like even for like Black Rodeo USA, it's called Black Rodeo USA, but anybody is allowed to rodeo in their rodeos,
Right.
and that was the point, is because it's not um a slap on white rodeos, or yeah, we are going to create our own because of that unfortunate thing, but everybody else can ride there too in their rodeos. So don't get it misinterpreted as if just because it says Black
Right.
Rodeo USA doesn't mean that it's only for black people.
Sometimes I forget that
However,
you have to explain that to some people.
But however, primarily it is because there wasn't a safe place or a space where they can go out and ride in the show. So yes, primarily it will be for black cowboys.
But it's open.
But it's open to
open
everybody.
to all.
Exactly.
What went into filming Writing Legacy? You talk about, a documentary where I want to say over a series of months, like
Mm-hmm.
you picked a season to cover different rodeos across the state,
Mm-hmm.
women, men, children, and then you compiled some stories together. How did what all went into that?
Um, that was by far some of the most indie filmmaking of all time that I've ever done. On that project, I was a cinematographer on that. I was the editor on that project. What else? Funded it, I guess, because it costs money to get up and down the road, and plus, I'm putting a beating on my gear, to film all those things, and so,
Dirt,
oh yeah,
rain.
so to make that project happen, I didn't really look at it that way. It was so important to me at that time period to make sure that that story was told. I was so inspired to tell this story. I really wanted to tell this story during a time period where nobody was telling the stories at all. Um, and I didn't even think about the magnitude of what it was going to do at that time period. Because, like I said, it's just myself and two other filmmakers with Devoted Media, Jay, Ridley, and Nicole, Jacqueline.
Mhm.
We were all a part of the project. And so we just traveled from rodeo to rodeo, learning as much as we can. We didn't really have a storyline. We just saw it as, hey, we're going to tell this as best as we can,
Mm.
and then want to go from there. So that's part of the relationship building. We was able to meet several different individuals. A lot of those individuals that are in our documentary are doing amazing things now in 2026. For example, Taylor Williams, who's on Love Island, Ronnie Davis, model for Tacova. Both him and Taylor went out to Paris and modeled for Louis Vuitton.
Wow.
Um, I mean, yeah, a lot of these individuals have carried on and went on and are still doing major things. And I hope that the next project that I do can continue to edify and elevate a lot of these, black and brown cowboys that are here in Oklahoma.
Was there a specific moment or a specific feeling that you remember where you were like, wow, like this is like I need to spend some of my a portion of my life over the next months and years telling this story because this is like just impacting me. Like,
At that time period of my film career, I was doing a lot of work for other people in other states, and so I haven't had a project where I can kind of say, well, okay, this is mine, or this is something that I'm doing, because I've worked in other spaces that have helped uh, build other people's
mhm.
portfolios, or building up their podcast, or whatever the case may be, or worked on other film projects. And so this is the first film project that I was able to work on that I can say, okay, this is me officially kind of going into that director seat, or at least like putting myself in the position to become that. Just putting the reps. So I didn't
Mhm.
really see it as um, you know, passion or whatever. I just saw it as like, okay, this is a cool story and a really good story, a story that hasn't been told before. That's what I like to be a part of. I like to pioneer things. I like to be a part of things that are up and coming, get it out the mud, as they say. And so that right there was enough for me to be like, all right, let me keep at it. And then once, of course, I started to learn more about this community and the people, and this culture, and how awesome it is. It's like, shoot, I mean, let's keep it going. And like, to see where it's at in 2026, like, I couldn't be more proud.
Yeah,
Like, I mean, I don't ever accredit myself to it, but people, they'll give me my just dues.
they're paying attention now.
I mean, they're paying attention, and then I mean, I think there's still a lot more that can be done. Whenever it comes to this, I want to talk about something so bad, but I can't. But
Oh,
not that, but it's another piece that I'm doing
okay.
that's that that we'll be announcing probably later this year, sometime this year.
We'll definitely have to have you back.
Yeah, because it's going to be a lot. There'll be a lot more than once you start seeing, like, because here's the thing, it's big, but I think that it can be not I think, I know that this can be a lot bigger. I know that there are individuals from the time that I started working on this project up until now that has literally taken this rodeo stuff a lot more serious. There were people that was getting ready to quit rodeo and to stop going to rodeos before. And I even accredit him, Jakian Parks with Oklahoma Cowboys, because it was me, Jakian, Nicole, and Jay. We all kind of started going to these rodeos around the same time and documenting all this. Jakian obviously became who he became with Oklahoma
Yeah.
Cowboys. Obviously, I became who I became with writing legacy films and things like that. And then Jay with the BCRAs and things like
Wow.
that, right? And so all three of us are doing the same thing. We have a lot of the same goals. We want to continue to elevate this community, but are doing it in different ways. And so there's still a lot more work that could be done, to where it's grown in a way to where we can start doing, like I said, larger rodeos, having more programs like similar to what Jakan is doing with the kids cowboy camps in the
Yeah.
summertime and things like that.
I had a
So
friend who was she was one of the trainers in those camps.
yeah,
Amazing stuff. And that's really inspiring because I feel like a lot of times we feel like there has to be some magical moment or we have to have some type of insider knowledge to really try and like cover something, or just try something new, right?
Yeah.
And basically you're saying that like if you have an idea, if you have the skills and there's an opportunity that presents itself, just go for it,
Yeah.
and you'll learn as you go.
Yeah. And that's what all of us did. Like literally all of us did that.
Mm.
So
That's wild to see, because I follow Oklahoma Cowboys and I'm like, man, they must have been for 20 years, they've been, in this culture covering
yeah.
this, and so it's really cool to hear that backstory, because I mean, y'all are some of the main promoters, if not some of the only promoters, of Black cowboy culture in Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
And it's gotten to a point now where people like Jordan Peele are looking at Oklahoma for inspiration for their projects and things like that. However people might feel about these national projects and how well they capture the real story, it is something that's interesting now, and I guess marketable, to the wider world.
I think it's cool, to see people like Jordan Peele come out here and wanting to tell that story, especially about black cowboys. But like I said, our main goal is we want to tell the real stories. We want to tell the authentic stories, because you got to understand, like, these aren't stories that you can just Google right now. I can't fabricate and make. I mean, I can just continue to say the same thing over and over again, like, oh, black cowboys have always been here. But okay, cool. Now let's get to the facts of it. Who are the black cowboys that have always been here? Oh yeah, I can point you in that direction. Who is the Jackie Robinson of rodeo? I can point you in that direction. Who's the Michael Jordan of black cowboys? I can put you in that direction. Who's the guy that, who has rode at the highest level in the NFR, PBR, that is still a part of the culture today, that's still throwing rodeos? I can point you to that guy. So that's my point, is like those individuals, when people come out here on a national, or not a national, but like from like bigger production companies, and I'm not trying, this isn't me trying to like throw shade at them, but it's like they're just as green as we were when we first started doing this. You know what I'm saying? So it's like they're still coming in based off of the excitement of just saying, "Oh, there's black people in these outfits," versus like being able to have access to the real people that can give you the real stories that literally are stamped and approved by everybody within that community. Because it's not just about, I mean, yeah, they did a great job with, just putting the word out there, but a lot of the folks that are in that cowboy community, like, they were dissatisfied by the project. It's like, I mean, I don't know what your profession is, but like, let's say, for example, journalism, right? If I was to go in and I was to go tell a story about, I don't know who's a good, like, a big journalist person, but anyways, if I was to jump into like, and I was to go tell a documentary about that, right? But you have access to all these different, like, the journalists, like, that can tell, like, that can really give a legit story about like journalism and how it began, and that, like, start to finish. I'm not going to go to you. I'm just going to tell it my way, but I'm going to tell it from a way of an outsider's perspective, and that's how that project went. And how, like, but for myself, like, as a director, I appreciate it because that helps me out tremendously. So next time, whenever I do something, it's like, hey, like, I can put my backstory behind it. Because I mean, I know all those guys. I know Jason Perez, like, that was a director on there. Me and Jason talk quite a bit. He's a big Knicks fan, kind of annoying. But
There's a few of them around now.
yeah, he's a huge Knicks fan. Which I mean, I love Jason. I love, great dude. But just kind of how, like, they just showed up and then they put out that project, and it really wasn't a good taste for the black cowboy community.
Really, okay. Well, I mean, that makes sense. In journalism, we call that parachuting, like,
Okay.
where maybe there's like a crisis, like, the Oklahoma City bombing or something, and you have all these national media that comes in, and they're trying to tell the world who Oklahoma is, but they're just interviewing Joe Schmo. They don't really know who to talk
There you
to.
go.
And that's kind of what you're saying.
That's 100% what I'm saying. Yeah, that's 100% what I'm saying. Because they had an opportunity to do that, and I was a part of that. I mean, my first film, we made it all the way out to Miami at American Black Film Fest, and so one of the first teams that worked on the Jordan Peele project, not gonna name drop, But
Just don't get me in trouble. You can get yourself in
I'm
trouble
not
all
gonna get in
day.
trouble by nobody.
All right,
No one's
bet.
gonna do anything. I mean, there's a production team that had a writer that was at American Black Film Fest, and so I remember whenever we had just got done doing our red carpet shoot, the writer like beamlines to me like, "Hey, I want to introduce you to somebody. They want to. They're doing a project over Black Cowboys." Me being green, obviously, this is mind you, this is my first documentary that I've ever done in life. And we made it all the way out to Miami. Like
Yeah.
they selected us to come showcase. Like I'm not there hanging out.
That's
Like
respect.
they selected us to like showcase our film there. So, and I mean, you gotta mind you, like Issa Rae's in the building, like all these different like Black directors and producers. Like at that moment, like just being there, as a spectator, you already feel like you're part of that. But being there as a first time director and like being in that room was like,
Yeah.
yo, like I really got something. I really did something. And I want to continue to like build on this forever. Cause I'm in the rooms with all like the greats, or some of the greats, not all of them, but most of the greats, right? People that I respect in the film world, right? And so whenever I'm there, I'm new. I'm just trying to get in the industry still, right? I'm still trying to like network or trying to get my film to Netflix or something, right? And so that's why that conversation is even able to be had, because it's like I don't know how this stuff works. I just know, hey, my film's in the film festival, and that's it. And I'm in Miami, and so when this person comes talking, I'm like, oh yeah, like we're from this production company. We're doing this, and this. Like, we want to have a meeting with you. I'm like, all right, cool. Here's my number. We have a meeting with the guy, the owner of the production company. And so he starts asking me questions about like my film and stuff like that. Da 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 da. Hey, can we watch it? They finally watch it. And then in the middle of the conversation, starts asking for like context. I'm like, all right, no, I'm not giving up my context. Like I was smart enough to know that. However, they ended up getting, some of the contacts from the people that was there through another source. And so to make a long story longer,
I feel like I know where you're going with this.
yeah, to make a long story longer, they really kept piggybacking off of like a lot of our research and what we've done for this project. And thank God, to the individuals that are like super loyal to us, because one thing about Oklahomans is gonna stick together. They're always gonna stick together. And one thing that's a blessing about me being able to have access and being embedded in this community the way that I am is like, the Cowboy way is honor and loyalty and respect. And the individuals that, even they went, and contacted, they was like, nah, we're not fooling with it. Like,
Wow.
Kian's our guy. We're not really fooling with it. And so when the story came out, or when the film came out on Peacock, we were just like, I was excited. I was happy, because I was like, oh yeah, well, it's not the full story like what we had. It wasn't the same exact story. 'Cause that's what I was afraid of.
You were excited because they just they didn't put out.
They didn't put out everything that we had in our story. I mean, they put out, like, for example, and I'm gonna touch on this, and then we can move on. So, and so they wanted to touch on like the black towns in Oklahoma. If you ever watched the documentary, they touched on the black towns in Oklahoma, then immediately cut to Edmond, Oklahoma. Exactly.
Edmond?
Correct.
White Flight, Edmond.
Correct.
Okay.
So that right there already let me know, like, okay,
they don't really have the lens for what they're doing here.
Correct.
I see.
Correct. But I can appreciate the fact that the story is out there, because now that it's out there on a national scale, once the world learns about who I am and the rest of my team, like,
now they got a chance to get not the generic brand, but the actual authentic
brand. Plus, like, I mean, we can be like Marvel Studios of Black Cowboys. And I'm not saying this to be arrogant or however you want to say it, but like, we're talking about not just documentaries, narratives too. Documentaries is just my specialty for right now, because that's something that I can really just tell like off the back of my hand. Documentaries, I got you all day. Narratives haven't really jumped off into that, but we have people on our team that can tell some phenomenal narrative stories as well. And so we're just waiting for our one yes. That's it.
Mm.
So
Was it crazy when Tyler Perry, transformed a former, slave plantation land into the biggest film studio, I think, in the country by like land area?
it was interesting to me because the way the direction that film studios are going now, with AI and a lot of other things. I mean, you could literally have an entire team and just as one person nowadays,
True,
like dang near, pretty
but there's
close.
certain things
Right.
that AI can never do,
Of course. Of course. Of
or
course. Of
even
course.
Jordan Peele without talking to the right people.
Of course. Of course. But no, I can appreciate it. I definitely can always appreciate it. The fact that Tyler Perry did that. Anything that is progressive and black entertainment, black media, I can always appreciate that. And the reason why is because you gotta think about it. For the last 100 years, have we really actually been able to tell our stories? No, not really. And so the fact that there are more storytellers that look like us that are doing it, in the manner that they feel needs to be told, whether if it's, from the hood stories all the way to stories that are just like Afrofuturism, which is like my
Mhm.
favorite category right
I
now.
love
I
Afrofuturism.
love Afro. Like that's
Yeah, I don't even fully feel like I fully understand it.
don't need to. It's so like like there's some folks up in Philly that are telling some really great
Mhm.
Afrofuturism stories. I just love the space that they're creating up there.
As
So
as a journalist who focuses so much on the negative and what we don't want, the thing I love about Afrofuturism is that it allows your brain to just focus on what could be,
yeah,
um, or what is in a different perspective. And for me, it allows me to rewire my brain in a
yeah,
different way.
yeah. One of my favorite pieces, like graffiti pieces in California, is the Great Wall of Crenshaw.
Hmm.
That is my favorite place to go to and just kind of let my mind just look at graffiti art and allow it to
Oh,
like
nice.
tell a story, from a black woman breathing air off into the world, and then from there it goes through all the different generations of our story, and then at the end you see Afrofuturism.
Wow, I've never seen this
Yep.
before.
I can't remember what year it was created. My dad knows. Well, I mean, obviously my dad is from there. But that's one of the places my dad would take me and my little sister to, and we would just walk. And that story right there, it's a major staple within just my persona as an artist, as a creative. Like I want stories to feel. Um, is that my son?
I,
Oh, okay.
okay.
Yeah, I thought it was crap. But anyways, yeah, that's yeah, with like the way that the Great Wall of Crenshaw is set up, like going from left to right, like that's essentially how a lot of my pieces in regards to tell a story that cohesive. You want it to always end in a way where it's empowering, and so that's what that piece represents to me.
Well, speaking of empowering, I want to ask your thoughts real quick, and then I want to get your advice on
Okay.
something. Um, the Oklahoma Cowboy Hall of Fame.
Mm.
It is the state's premier museum-ish, facility for everything cowboy related.
Yeah.
Does it do enough to showcase the Black cowboy story?
Um, Off the top of my head, and this is just being. Let me just be straight. No, it doesn't. There's a lot of work that needs to be done there, and I mean, but then again, too, like I get it, because at the end of the day, who's on the board, who owns the building, they can tell whatever story that they want to, you know. I have that sense of understanding, but in the grand scheme of things, like it depends on what that museum wants to do, If they want to appease all their donors and things like that, they'll keep the story exactly the way they want to keep it, and that's totally okay with them because at the end of the day, they the one that got to spend money on it, and they got to get go in there and walk around and look at those things. But like now that we're starting to see more diverse people coming into the museums, and we're starting to see black cowboys holding events and awards and ceremonies there and everything, it's like, okay, we'll take your money, but we can't properly represent you. That part I don't necessarily understand.
I mean, I've been to quite a few like events there, you know, and there's a few of us on the wall, but I just thought, especially after learning more about the history, that we'd be more represented. And so, I guess that's an opportunity for people listening who may have the ability to make change, um, to know that there's people who want to see change. You talk about, you know, you had mentioned the Marvel Studios for Black Cowboy right here, you know, in Oklahoma.
Mhm.
What advice would you have for up and coming filmmakers who maybe want to, uh, you know, follow in your footsteps and do some of the same kinds of projects or even different projects, but
Yeah.
they just they don't see themselves represented?
Do the story that's important to you. No matter what that looks like. Everybody has their own experiences in the world. And that's the way I see it is that, you have, I mean, this world is so huge, man. It's a collective, you want to find what's best for you. You want to tell the story what's best for you. Don't worry about the audience. Um, I think there was somebody I was watching the other day that's the music artist. And it was like, I don't create music for my audience. I do what's best like that feels. And to me, like that's a real thing because nowadays, with the internet, the social media, like people want to do things that's trending or want to do that's, hey, I want to make sure I can catch the algorithm.
Yeah.
But to me, that takes away from the pure artistry of what you're doing as a creative. Being a creative is to me is the closest thing to, and not to get too deep, is like godliness, right? I mean, it comes from a pure place. It comes from the metaphysical and you bring it to the physical. It starts in the mind first. And so there's a lot of people that have tried this, where they'll think and think and think and think and they'll never act or do it.
Mm.
And so to be able to pull something out of a space that, you don't know where it comes from, but you just got to get it out of your brain. And when you do it, I think that feeling, I think everybody needs to experience. And so just go after it. Just do it. Trust yourself. Trust the process. Trust that the right people are going to find you as you're doing what you're doing. Trust that it's all going to work out. I mean,
Hmm.
who cares? At the end of the day, it's who cares? Art is so subjective. People love it. People hate it. You just gotta just keep doing you got to keep doing what's best for you, and it's getting out those ideas.
And I feel like that's so hard for people, me and myself included. I'll be honest with you, right? Because we are so tuned in now to trying to figure out what is it that people want to see from me, what is it that I can do that's gonna keep my roof over my head,
Oh yeah,
what is it that I can do that's gonna fulfill me.
yeah.
And I feel like those three things are always competing for our attention, um, and so like locking in and blocking out the others to focus on, you know, what moves you is scary. You know, it's the scariest thing sometimes.
I know. I mean, but it goes back to what I was saying. It's like it's an interesting time because we want to do what's trendy, or we want to be able to catch the attention, or we want to go viral. There's a lot of things that are not going to go viral, but sometimes you just want the right audience. And when I say the right audience, like you want the right community to back
Mhm.
you, versus you want the entire like everybody to be able to back you. Even though we want to be loved as artists, but you also have to understand the other side of it. Like everybody's not going to love it. There's clients that I work for that I do projects. Like I already understand once I kick back a project, there's going to be something said about the project, right? And you can't take any of that personal. You just have to just put it out there, and then being able to be open to the feedback and the criticism, and then you just get back to work and you just do it the way that they want it to get done. But then when it's something that's personal to you, I understand. Like I mean, there's stuff that I want to put out that I hope everybody loves it. But then there's sometimes I was like, man, I just got to just get it out my system just to get it out there, just so I can move on to the next thing.
I
Because
feel
I'll
that.
have I have creative blocks. Like it's like something I don't know what to call it, but like if I don't get this out of my system into the world, it's like I can't even stop thinking about it.
Creative constipation.
Sure, creative constipation. That's what you want to call it. But yeah, if I don't take this creative dump, then I'm just gonna
You're
be
gonna be stuck.
I'm gonna be stuck. It's just gonna be on my brain. I won't be able to think about nothing else but that.
Mm,
So
I respect that. I get that. I get that. So, we have to be vulnerable enough with ourselves
mm.
to flush it all out and let what's supposed to come and what we're supposed to do take place.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well,
Not maybe not the most pleasantly smelling metaphor, but I think it gets the job done.
yeah, it definitely gets the job done. I'm trying to think of what would be the laxative for creatives.
I mean, if you can find that out, let me know.
Nah.
Because like when I get writer's block, I can't do anything.
Yeah.
And then it messes with your confidence. It messes with your sense of who you are, because we tied ourselves to what we do so much, right?
Yeah.
But I guess we have to just find our own laxative.
Yeah, we kind of do, man. It's kind of funny you said that. Like, I've actually been fired from like really big projects where I'm just like, dang it, man. I thought this was the one that was going to change my life. And then I had to redefine myself all over again and then recreate and then pick my fall down and recreate myself all over again. I think that's just life, man. As much as we want people to love what we put out, at the end of the day, what matters is, do we love what we put out? Whether we're working for somebody or if we're not, if we're working for ourselves, at the end of the day, what is it? Gosh, where's my phone at? Oh, my son has it. Crap. It's a Bible verse, like creating for no human masters, basically. It's like it's Mark 20. I think it's like Mark 4:24. But it's like pretty much like working for the Lord and not for human masters. Like we're creating for the Lord, not for human masters. And so essentially that's what it's about. We are 100%.
Whatever you do, work at it with all of your heart as working for the Lord, not for human masters.
Yeah. That's it, man.
So how can people, Kian Taylor, award-winning filmmaker of Writing Legacy, how can people connect with you, tap in? How can they reach you?
Man, right now I'm a hermit crab.
Okay, what's the way people can reach your work?
I'm messing with you.
No,
you can follow me on IG, Kian the Creative, Facebook, Kian Taylor. You can find me on my website, writinglegacyfilms.com.
And that's KIANTAYLOR.
Yep. And I have a personal website that's coming back. That's about to be re-erected here in the next few months with some new work on there.
Sounds good.
KianTaylor.com.
Well, brother, thank you so much for joining In Depth with Dion, and looking forward to seeing more of your work.
And thank you. I appreciate you.